الله أكبر حي على الصلاة الله أكبر.
Islam.
Again, I rise, giving the most high praise to Allah, and the highest honors to His Prophet, LamadahYah Bey. I also like to extend honors to our Moorish flag, which reminds us of the standard that we are to uphold as Moorish Americans.
Sorry.
I'd like to extend honors to our Sheikh staff, our vanguards who keep the peace, and to you, the Elders and Beys, because without you, there's no Moorish movement. Islam. So I was asked earlier this week by our Grand Governor just my opinion on what are the significance of a virtuous woman, or the significance of a virtuous woman in the temple and the Moorish movement specifically. And we can go into that in many different ways. One being the temple representing that virtuous woman, because the temple is it's a feminine attribute. We come into the temple is our home, the temple is our nation, which nation, or not necessarily the temple is our movement to progress our nation. So we have to ask ourselves, what is a virtuous woman? Or what is virtue, rather? And the floor is open as well.
Islam.
What do we think of when we think of virtue? What is the definition of virtue? What are some virtues? Islam. Y'all don't all have to speak. I don't. What's the virtue? Islam.
A virtue, I guess, could be defined as, a moral code, to live by. Positive morals. Morals to make you a better person, and principles that govern the way you treat other people.
Islam. Brother, what do you think? Or you can give some examples of virtues. We have several, in our Moorish law. Just anyone.
I guess moral character.
Brother, virtue.
Virtue perhaps be equality.
Equality. Sheikh brother Charles.
Islam.
Islam.
The Prophet Noble Ali is a standard of virtue.
Islam.
He's the highest standard of virtue.
Islam. Sister.
I don't know if I can give any other examples based on that and what was demonstrated earlier.
Islam. Praise Allah. We'll get back to you. Islam. And so I just pulled a definition offline of virtue, and it says a behavior or attribute of high moral standard. And that's something that we have to remember, especially as women, because we do kind of set that standard for our nation, because we hear all the time a man, for example, will only do what is allowed by a woman. A man will approach a woman a particular type of way by the way she carries herself.
That's right.
And then us as Moorish American women, we have to remember that, or I'll just give an example. A lot of times when I go out, or when I'm with my family or anyone like that, they look at me as that standard and they say, okay, well, if you're Muslim and you do it, you're supposed to be the highest one. I can do all of this other crazy stuff. So they're looking at me and they're doing a little bit less than what I do. Or a little bit less. They think that it's okay, acceptable to do a little less than what I do. So when I lower my standards, and when the brothers lower their standards as men as well, that virtue, they lower their own standards. They're not honest, or they lack love or truth. They lack certain characters. Then the world lowers their standards.
Islam.
So a virtuous woman is somebody or a woman or a feminine principle that holds certain attributes, the highest attributes. I'm going to read, Key 70, Islam. Key 70. It says, what is the higher self? Islam. What is the higher self?
The higher self is the mother of virtues and harmonies, life, breed, justice, mercy, love, and right.
Islam. So it says the higher self is the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life, and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right.
That's right.
And I communicate, so we're going to have a conversation. It's going to be a working thing. We're all going to learn. We're here to work out our salvation. So we have to engage. We have to engage, and we have to make sure we understand the prophet's lessons. That's what we're here for. That's what we're in the temple for.
Islam.
So when it says the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life, and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right, is this the mother of virtues breeding with the harmonies of life? And if so, what are the harmonies of life? And where does our prophet demonstrate the harmonies of life? Because this is our higher self. This is what we're supposed to be. So what are the harmonies of life?
Praise Allah. Tell us, my brother.
Islam. I'm asking y'all. We're the masterminds. We're all the masterminds in here.
We're all connected, our cords.
Islam. Praise Allah.
The natural flow of things.
Islam. And that breeds with the mother of virtues, or the highest virtues.
That's right.
What are our highest principles? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as the brother demonstrated before myself. Islam.
Islam.
And so I'm going to read from now, and I praise Allah because both of the brothers, Brother Khaled and the Brother Yosef, actually demonstrated a little bit from each chapter that I wanted to demonstrate from, so I don't have to go too in depth. But I'll start with going back to the significance of a virtuous woman, or that virtuous feminine principle as well, to know thyself and thy father God Allah. Islam, brother. And it says, dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones, that they may learn to love instead of hate. Dear fathers, by these lessons, you can set your house in order, and your children will learn to love instead of hate. And I find it, or actually I'll go back up. Dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. They are for good and peace. They are for good, peace, and happiness for all those that love Jesus. So first, there's a disclaimer. As soon as you hear about the prophet, when you believe in the prophet, or you believe in the virtues, you believe in Allah, you believe in the higher self, you believe in all of these higher attributes, there's a caveat there. We can have these degrees. These degrees are for us. They are for all of those that love Jesus or love justice.
Good.
But we cannot falsely use these lessons.
That's right.
Islam. And then it says, dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones, that they may learn to love instead of hate. That's the faith. And we're going to teach. We're going to give this to other people. Dear fathers, by these lessons you can set your house in order, and your children will learn to love instead of hate. And that degree will come into fruition because you're instilling this in your children.
Islam.
And you're enacting it. And your children, you see the fruit of your labor.
That's right.
And so it says specifically for the mothers to teach these lessons. And I see that all throughout the Circle 7, when you're dealing with the feminine principle, and you're dealing with the women, and you're dealing with the virtuous women, they are teaching. Skipping forward to chapter 2. It says, chapter 2, we're going to go to we're going to start at verse 13. And we're familiar with the Circle 7. This is Elihu speaking to Elizabeth and Mary, the mothers of our forerunner and our brother Jesus, John the Baptist and brother Jesus. And we have it. Say Islam. Islam. An age has passed. The gate unto another age flies open at the touch of time. This is the preparation age of soul. The kingdom of Emmanuel, of Allah and man.
That's right.
And these your sons will be the first to tell the news and teach the gospel of goodwill to men and peace on earth. A mighty work is theirs. For carnal men want not the light, they love the dark, and when the light shines in the dark, they comprehend it not. We call these sons revealers of the light, but they must have the light before they can reveal the light. And pay attention to this verse, verse 17, and it says, and you must teach your sons. That's the obligation of a virtuous woman, is to teach her sons and her daughters and her children and the nations of the earth. And you must teach your sons and set their souls on fire with love and holy zeal,
That's right.
and make them conscious of their missions to the sons of men. And this is why when, I get up and speak, I don't like to just speak at people. I don't like to speak at people. I like to engage and have a conversation to make sure it's registering everything that we're hearing. Because every time we sit in these sacred roles, it's an opportunity, no matter how many years we've been in the movement, it's an opportunity to learn and to cultivate yourself better and to grow. And that's our duty here as that virtuous woman, is to teach. And you must teach your sons and set their souls on fire with love and holy zeal, and make them conscious of their missions to the sons of men. Islam. Pick on some of that. Islam, sister. I said I was coming back. What do you think your duty is here? Not just in the temple, but on earth in general. Like, what's your duty here? What is the part of Allah that you manifest here on earth, that you give to earth? And take your time.
Well, my duty is to love everyone, to treat them like my family members, to try to teach as many as I can. Islam. It's the biggest duty I feel I have right now.
That's right. It sounds like a virtuous woman. Islam, to love and to teach.
Praise Allah.
Islam, praise Allah. I'll get to you too. I've been picking on people. Brother Kenna, what's your duty here?
What's my duty?
Islam.
I would say, as a man, to provide a foundation so that the women of my nation can teach and teach comfortably.
Islam.
No.
Praise Allah. Sounds like a Moorish American man. Virtuous man. Islam.
Praise Allah.
To support, offer that support. Husbands support your wife. Islam. Okay, I'll leave y'all alone. And I'll read that again, verse 17. And you must teach your sons and set their souls on fire with love and holy zeal, and make them conscious of their missions to the sons of men. So that's us being conscious of our mission. That's what we're put here to do. These are the things that we feel we should do. And like my sister said, we all, as virtuous women, have that obligation to love and to be that highest standard of love.
Thank you.
And to teach. Alhamdulillah. Verse 18. Teach them that Allah and man are one, but through carnal thoughts, words, and deeds, man tore himself away from Allah and debased himself. So we're also supposed to teach that basically our history, because that's our history. Islam, that's our history. That's where we come from. We come from Allah. And from then on, we debased ourselves lower and lower and lower and lower. And we're in this current state.
How about that?
Islam. Teach that holy breath would make them one again, restoring harmony and peace. Teach that naught can make them but one, but love. That Allah so loved the world that he has clothed his son in flesh, that man may comprehend. Islam. And so we're supposed to teach. Or teach that spirit of love to set the souls on fire, so that when we go out and do our work, we're not looking mean and draggy and groggy. We're supposed to do our work with a smile on our face. We're supposed to toil to be happy. Islam. We're supposed to make conscious the missions, and then we're supposed to teach our history, and we should teach the science of how to get back to where we started from. Islam, and that's our obligation. Islam. I would also like to read from Ruth the Moabitess, authored by our grand governor. Alhamdulillah.
Beautiful.
Islam. And I'm not sure if anybody has the book, but we're going to read from page 20. Just a short little excerpt. It's The Virtuous Woman. Islam. The land where the Temple of Solomon was constructed was land purchased by Oman the Jezebite. The concept of a threshing floor is a place where falsehood can be separated from truth, and truth can be erected. It is a place of initiation where one comes out of the darkness into the marvelous light. Naomi instructed Ruth to meet Boaz at the threshing floor. After he had finished working, after he had eaten and drank, wait until he laid down, go in, uncover his feet. These are the instructions that Naomi is giving to Ruth, the Moabitess. Go in and uncover his feet, after which he will instruct you what to do. Ruth submitted to Naomi's instruction by saying, all that you say to me, I will do. Islam. And this in itself, this passage in itself has many virtues. It displays many virtues. It displays obedience. It displays humility. Be humble. Be humble, especially us dealing with our brothers. We have to be humble. We can be rash sometimes, and not know it, and be so harsh. But we have to remember that our words are supposed to be clothed in honey. So even when we say certain things that may be true, we have to remember how we're saying them as women, so that we don't break the man. Islam. So that humility and humbling herself to Boaz, that obedience, one displaying obedience to her mother-in-law, Naomi, by listening to what she's doing, listening to what she's telling her to do, and then saying that once Boaz instructs her, she'll listen to Boaz as well. So that obedience, wife, be obedient to your husband. Islam. According to the biblical record, Ruth was to be initiated into the law of, I skipped over another important part, that initiation. So Ruth being initiated was after her going to would have been after her going to the threshing floor to delineate that truth from falsehood. So that's another thing that we have to do as sisters, as virtuous women. We have to learn to be able to discern between truth and falsehood.
That's right.
According to the biblical record, Ruth was to be initiated into the law of Israel by an upright pillar of the community, namely Boaz, through marriage. Naomi was very specific in her instructions with how to approach Boaz.
That's right.
Ruth was instructed to uncover Boaz's feet and to lie down at his feet. The threshing floor being the place where truth and falsehood were separated by action of the holy breath. The threshing floor was symbolic of holy ground.
Wow.
Ruth uncovered Boaz's feet, which was a holy action, and she laid down at his feet, symbolizing that she submitted to the virtue of the upright pillar. This she did while Boaz was resting. When he had awakened, Boaz was slightly startled. He asked, "Who was this lying at his feet?" And if you haven't read this one, I'll, for the sake of time, and our Grand Governor would like to speak as well, I would suggest reading this article, The Virtuous Woman, Islam. But I do want to read another article from this book as well, the same in chapter 5. And in chapter 5, it speaks about the different types of women, or the different types of feminine attributes. And in one feminine attribute, it's referred to as the maiden. And I'm going to read this one, and then I'm going to go ahead and yield the floor. It says, the maiden. The maiden represents purity and the quality of character in a woman. I'll read that again. The maiden represents purity and the quality of character in a woman. The astrological house representing the maiden is the astrological house representing the maiden is the house of Virgo, the virgin. Hazat, Fatima, daughter of the Prophet Muhammad of Arabia, was an example of the female archetype of the maiden. She was known as Zara. Zara is an Arabic word which means to shine, give light, to be radiant, to glow, to gleam, glare, shine, to blossom, and be in bloom. And I always touch on that to give light. I always stop it to give light, because that degree in itself, we think that to be in the light is a beautiful thing and it just feels so glorious, right? We all want to be in the light and we all want to walk in the light. But when you walk in the light, the things that are hidden are made manifest. So the sister is there to give light, to shine on you. So when the sisters come and they're being tough on you brothers, the virtuous women, when they're being tough on you brothers, she may be shedding light on some of the things that may need to be left in Asia. Islam. So if she is being a little rash, or if she is being a little rough, sometimes we do have to step back and kind of just take a look at ourselves, and that's on both parts as well. So this maiden gave light. She was radiant, to glow, to gleam, to glare, shine, to blossom, be in bloom. In Arabic, the word Asura refers to the planet Venus, which is the planet of love connected to Friday. She was the wife of Ali ibn Talib, who was the cousin of Prophet Muhammad. Her two sons from Ali are Hassan and Hassan. Her mother and father were Khadija and Prophet Muhammad. She was their only child. Fatima was also known as Al-Buta, meaning the chaste or the pure one. It is related that when Ali sought the hand of Fatima in marriage, he came to the Prophet Muhammad to announce his initiation. But when he stood in the presence of the Prophet, he remained silent. The Prophet perceived the purpose of his coming and asked if he intended to marry his daughter Fatima. Ali answered in the affirmative. The Prophet told Ali that he was aware that Ali was in possession of a particular shield, which if sold would provide him money for the bridal price, dowry, known as the al-mahr in Arabic. He sold the shield to Uthman ibn Affan, who in turn gave it back to him as a wedding gift. The Prophet came to Fatima and asked if she would like to marry Ali. She remained silent. However, when previous suitors came to the Prophet seeking her hand in marriage, she answered no. In regards to Ali, her took in silence, he took in silence as an answer in the affirmative, which is in conjunction with the maiden energy, as well as the honorific of al-batul, the chaste. So but that's saying basically that it's giving the degree of a modest woman being someone who is somewhat meek, and not one of too many words, So for myself, for example, it took me a long time to speak when I first came here, Islam. And many people thought that maybe I was shy or something, which once you get me to speaking, you'll realize I'm not too shy. But I know that sometimes when I say things, it can come off, or people may not be prepared to hear it. People may not be prepared to receive certain things. And so when I think of my words, and when a virtuous woman thinks of their words, or thinks of what things should be said and what things should not be said, there are a lot of things that should not be said. So we're ones of few words, and we'll speak when necessary. Islam. And I will read one more thing from our Circle 7 to leave it off on our Prophet. Going into the chapter on the soul of man, which our brother Khalid demonstrated a little earlier. I think it's chapter 38. And I'm just going to read down a few verses. It says, "The blessing, O man, of thy external part is health, vigor, and proportion. The greatest of these is health. What health is to the body, even that is honesty to the soul. That thou hast a soul is of all knowledge the most certain of all truths, the most plain unto thee. Be meek, be grateful for it. Seek not to know it perfectly. It is inscrutable. That sounds a lot like us women as well. Islam. Thinking, understanding, reasoning, willing, call not these the soul. They are its actions, but they are not its essence. So we are, as women, as virtuous women, to be that soul of the temple, to be that soul of our nation, to be the facilitators of the things that take place on the day-to-day in our nation. Islam. Raise it not too high that thou be not despised. Be not thou like unto those who fall by climbing, neither debase it to the sense of fruits, nor be thou like to the horse and the mule in whom there is no understanding. Search it by its faculties, know it by its virtues. They are more in number than the hairs of thy head. The stars of heaven are not to be counted with them. Islam. And with that, I just would like to say that to remind us, especially as women, to be virtuous women and to be modest and to be mindful of the things that we do and say to one another, to our brothers, and to the rest of the world. And understand that we all have different attributes that we come to manifest. We all have different obligations. But like our Sister Jasmine said, the highest obligation is to love and to teach Islam. And with that, I leave you as I came in peace.
Allahu Akbar. Hayya ala salah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Hayya ala salah.